everybody. Today we're playing the blues.
No one in their right mind would try to follow that, so naturally I charge right on ahead. Hey everybody, Tyrone Shoes here, and today we're talking about the blues, and more specifically, the blues scale that we all learn as perhaps the pentatonic scale, and we're going to see how it relates to the chords. But I want to start off by saying that, they say it's the hip scale, but it's like the punchline of a joke. You don't want to start with it. If we encountered each other and I said to you, homeless, you'd probably look at me funny and go, well, all right. But if before that I said to you, what do you call a guitar player without a girlfriend? And then homeless, you may get a laugh out of it or a groan if you've heard it before. The point about the blues scale, and this is what I'm getting to, is that it creates lots of tension. And you need to build up to it. Because if you start there, you don't really have anywhere to build from. This would be a G7 chord. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at what these notes are. We'll just go from the top. Well, an astute student might say, well, that's the minor third. Well, it is, but against the dominant seventh, that's not the role that it has. It is called the sharp 9 or raised 9. And it gives you this chord, more familiarly fingered perhaps this way. And you go, oh, that's the Jimi Hendrix chord. Different key, but who cares? And the key, the chord has been around long before Mr. Hendrix, though he made it famous. And the point is, when you're playing the blues, that's a lot of tension. That's a lot of tension. So the sharp 9 is something that you have to build to. We'll just continue down the scale. We have a sharp 9. We have the root, perfectly safe note. We have a 7th, which of course is in the chord, another really good note. We have the 5th, also in the chord, kind of vanilla. Now here's the other big tension note, the flatted 5th. Seldom do you just stop there, but it's a really good passing tone, both ways. Okay, so the next note is the 4th, which is a non-chord tone, but perfectly innocuous. And then we start repeating ourselves. There's our sharp 9 again. And then the root, etc. Well, if you lead off, well, you don't really have anywhere to build from. If you stay inside the changes a little bit, so that hopefully you could have followed the changes there as a blues in G with all the notes I was playing. And what we're going to do is we're going to simplify it, and we're going to take this blues scale and tweak it just a little bit for each chord, and you will be able to make some better music out of it than just run the scale up and down. And the first thing I want to talk about is this note right here, the sharp 9. Is kind of the offensive note. Eric Clapton makes kind of a living of bending it just a little bit. And that sound that you get, it's not even the major third. You can approach it. Musicologists say the proper blues third over the 1 chord is not the sharp 9 or the minor third, and not the major third, but something in between. And my pet theory is that the human ear kind of will take it the rest of the way if you start the process. But you don't have to get all the way there. You could also do it like a piano player does it, which, because they can't bend strings, or organ cannot either. So what they'll do is they'll take all the, what you might think of as the minor thirds, or what I call the sharp 9, and just raise them, and you can bend it or slide it or hammer it, something like this. So instead of going, every time I hit it twice. I hit it here, and I hit it here. Every time I hit it, I sharped it. That's kind of almost a piano kind of a lick. You can use a bend. And now, all of a sudden, those licks sound better over the 1 chord. So, if you've been a good little student and learned all 5 patterns, you'll figure out where to bend where those minor thirds or sharp 9s are. So with just that little bend or hammer on, if you like, all of a sudden those normal pentatonic or blues scale licks fit over the 1 chord. Instead of this, whoops. Notice this is kind of a one-way street. You don't want to come back here because that's the offending note, right? And again, if you've played a few choruses through and you're on your 3rd or 4th run through, if you want to lay on that, you know, and really create some tension, that's fine, because you've spent a couple of choruses prior to that, you know, kind of proving that you know what you're doing, so to speak. So again, we take our, what you may call the minor third, and you know that's a fine name for it, or what is properly called the sharp 9, and bend it over the 1 chord. Now, notice when the 4 chord happens. Now all of a sudden, you know, I'll do the kind of white bread or version of the chord, right? You can see that note. It's right in the C7 there, in the 4 chord. It happens to be the 7th of the chord. In fact, we can look at what the blues scale means against the 4 chord. Against the C chord, we have a 7th. We have a 5th. Now this is a 4th, and we're going to do something about this. A 4th or an 11th. It's okay, but it's nothing great. We're going to make a little adjustment there. That's the 9th. Okay. Then we have the root. And then it repeats. That's the 7th again. Okay, so all of a sudden, this note, which was kind of tense over the 1 chord, it fits the 4 chord perfectly. So what we're going to do, I mentioned this note. We can do the old B.B. King trick, and that is to lower this note a half a step. So we're going to replace, in the key of G, it's an F note, we're going to replace it with an E. It's, in numbers-wise, this is a 7th in relation to a G, and we're going to make it a 6th. And in relation to C, what that is, it's a 4th that we've made a 3rd. Now, when I make the old white bread version of this C7 chord, you can see there's the 3rd, so this note's going to kind of clash with it. So just by doing those 2 things, by tweaking the sharp 9 over the 1 chord, when the 4 chord comes, we're going to leave it alone, and we're going to lower the F note to an E. So hopefully that little phrase right there, you were able to hear these changes. Okay, now what I did there, because I used a bend over the 1 chord, I wanted to use a similar sound, so I went down a half step and I bent into the good note that's over the C chord, what is the B flat, the minor third. What was the raised 9 over the G is now the 7th over the C. And there's my hammer-on that we talked about just a couple minutes ago. So that phrase negotiates our way through the 1, the quick change to the 4, and back to the 1. So that only leaves the 5 chord. Now, most of the time, I treat the 5 chord as a new 1. So if we're in G, 5 is D. So if I can take a D minor and bend the sharp 9, just like I did the G minor pentatonic, or the G blues scale if you like, and bent the sharp 9 over it. But if you like, you can stay in the G. Now let's look at what we have here. We're going to examine these notes. This would be a sharp 5th, which is kind of a jazzy, augmented sound. Right? This is an 11, kind of gospel-y sounding. A 4th, if you like, a 4th or an 11. This, there's your raised 9. We can do something about that if you like we did before, and we probably will. Then we have our root and our 7th, and a 7th is a great note, and everything else repeats. Oh, the blues note in G would be a chromatic note between the root and the 7th. It's a, it's a good passing tone. So it might not be the best collection, but it's not the worst either. And if we raise the F note, all of a sudden it sounds good over the 5 chord, even with the sharp 5. And you can lower that if you want, but let's just keep it simple for now. There's all sorts of options to try and to experiment with. We're just going to keep this simple. But you should be able to take a blues scale and over the 1 chord, we're going to raise the sharp 9 or the minor third, and we're going to bend it, or slide, or hammer, or just play it. And again, one more time, when you raise it, you don't want to go back to the, it's kind of a valve. It's a one-way street. You don't want to go back to the offending note. Maybe go down to the G, or you can continue going up or whatever. So, but that's, you don't really want that unless you're going to the 4 chord. If you're staying on the 1 chord, now you hear some bebop players do that kind of thing because they're after that sharp 9 sound. But if you're playing kind of a down-homey blues, even a light swing or whatever, you don't really want that sound. So again, over the 1 chord, we're going to raise the minor third or the sharp 9. Over the 4 chord, we're going to lower the 7th to the major 6th. And you can hear that C chord right in there. And over the 5 chord, we're going to raise the F. So with just those little adjustments, we can use our blues scale and make it much closer to the chord changes. And then again, like maybe for the turnaround section, if you want to do a straight, just kind of run the blues scale, it's going to have impact because you've built up to it, and then you can kind of lay it on people, and they go, oh yeah, and you've built to that point. It's like there's the punchline, the big payoff of the joke. So we're going to throw caution to the wind and just try this. I may go to other areas of the neck, but I'm going to try to restrict myself. I'm going to try to restrict myself to just this blues scale and just tweak it. And finally, so there they are. There's the 5. Now I'm going to try to stay in there, and I'm just going to try to use it and tweak the appropriate notes for the chords. I got to get the band ready. Y'all ready down there? A 1, 2, 3, 4. Lower the F. I used an A note from the major pentatonic. Okay, so hopefully you get the idea of some of the things you could try. I think I used it. I'll bring it down an octave. So that little tiny lick would be from the major pentatonic. But except for that stray lick in there, I think I pretty much stayed with the blues scale, tweaking it, sharpening the minor third, if you like to call it, or the raised 9, over the 1 chord, lowering the F to the E over the 4 chord, and then raising the F over the 5. And then really that's all I was doing. And it's a way to state the changes a lot better now. There's much more in-depth discussion about the blues. It's only 3 chords in a truth, but there's a lot going on in there, and you should know how to spell the chords. And of course, all of my students, learn all of this stuff. But that's what you're doing. You're picking out chord tones, and really the guide tones. You should always know that the 3rd and the 7th are the 2 most important notes, really in any chord, but especially in dominant 7th chords. And just while we're on the subject, we've just been listening to the G blues, right? So I'm going to play the changes without playing a single root. Now it'll sound a little small because I'm not using much, but with a bass player, and even without it, watch. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. See, it's the same chord. Who needs the root? See? There's no difference between that. Yes, it sounds a little bit fuller and there's a little bit more there, but that's the essence of the chord right there. And those are the tones that you should be going for. So over G, it's F and B. Over C7, it's E and B flat. And over D7, it's F sharp and C. And again, I could go on for hours about this, but we're going to keep this short. And hopefully those 3 little tweaks will really enhance your blues playing and your ability to negotiate your way through the changes. Because Again, you should be able to make a solo without hearing any of the rhythm track, and a listener should be able to determine what the chord changes are just by what you play. It sounds like a daunting task, but really your ears will guide you there. A little bit of knowledge and a lot of practice. So I hope this helps. Good luck, and we'll see you in the next video.